Hey guys, I'm back. So today we are going to do the video that I attempted to do when my sewing machine broke. So I got a request to do a video for ruffles like this on leggings. Now what I basically did was I did a ruffle stitch, and I sewed in the middle. I cut out 4 strips because I'm going to have 2 of these ruffles on each side of the bottom of the legging. Now I have another strip here that I didn't get to do before the sewing machine died that I'm going to show you all how to make the ruffle. Now with my old sewing machine I had a ruffler foot because this is a new brand. I'm not certain that my ruffler foot will fit on this, so I'm going to show you how to do it manually. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our tension on the tightest. Mine goes to 9. I'm actually going to put mine on 8. If I see that I want the ruffles to be a little bit tighter, then I'll turn it up to 9. And then you're going to turn your length to the longest length. Mine is 4, yours may be 5. And let's get started. So you're just going to do a straight stitch when you're doing this, right down the middle of the fabric. And as you can see, it's starting to ruffle. I want mine a little bit tighter, so I'm just going to turn it up a little bit. And I'm going to back stitch. Okay. And we're just going to pull this out. And now you have your ruffle. With my other sewing machine, actually these ruffles got a little bit tighter, as you can see. But because I didn't back stitch initially, I can pull this thread to make it a bit tighter, like so. And you can continue on. If your sewing machine doesn't get it as tight as you want it, you can do that. So now let's go to assembling the ruffles on the leggings. What I like to do, and I have these 2 pieces cut out, and I already have a legging video, so if you need to know how to cut the size of the legging, I'll put that video right here, and you could click on that link and get to that video that shows you how to cut for your leggings. So I have my fabric on the wrong side. I always cut on the wrong side of my fabric. So what you do for this, I'm going to open this up because I am going to put my ruffles on to the leggings first, because I like to see the stitch just on the inside stitch for the ruffle. It's a little bit tougher, I guess, to try to put the ruffle on after, because it makes it really tight. So I'm going to do it before I actually put the leggings together. Okay, so what I'm going to do is figure out where I kind of want this placed. And make sure I'm looking at the right side. Now, for this particular fabric, because this is a knit, I don't need to finish off the sides. But if you want to, you could do a zigzag stitch, overcast stitch to give it a more professional look if that's what you're going for. But for this kind of fabric, it doesn't fray, so you don't have to worry about that. So I'm just going to set this along here. I'm going to let it go over a little bit off the side because we're going to be sewing that seam anyway. I'm just going to pin it. Not stretching the ruffle, just let it lay on your fabric while you pin it. and because I have extra. And that's why I say always cut more than what you need, because you can save these for another project. Okay, so now I'm going to add the second ruffle right above it to make it look really cute and really full. And I love doing projects like this for my daughter, and she loves when I make things for her. I hadn't really gotten to making things for boys, but I probably will this summer. So you can look for boy stuff. And if you want, you can do 3 layers, you can do 4 layers. I'm probably going to stick with just the 2, just because I know my daughter's taste, and if I put 3, she'll say it looks like it's for a baby, so I'm safe with 2. So, and you can put your ruffles higher, you can put them lower, however you want to do it. Go ahead and make it your own. So I'm going to do the same thing and open this up. And sometimes it can get really tricky when you're working with this kind of fabric to tell which is the front and which is the back, but you can usually compare to figure that out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is match these up at the end so I can get the ruffles on the same side. So what I'm going to do is match this up at the ends, because what I actually want to do is make sure that when I sew that the ruffles are even on both legs. And sometimes you just have to put something to hold it still. Okay. So I'm going to take this one and do the same thing that I did before, and just kind of lay it down, pin it. If you don't want to pin, you don't have to. A lot of times I don't pin, but when it comes to ruffles, I like to pin it just because I want it in a certain spot and I don't want it moving around. And I'm actually going to try to use one of my other ruffles, just because the one I just did didn't ruffle up as much as I wanted to. And perfect, I have enough. It's long enough. Okay, so one on this side. I'm just going to even this one up, just like I did with all the rest, just to give it that fuller look at the bottom. Okay, so now that we have that, we are actually going to stitch the ruffles together before we put the leggings together. Just set that piece aside and go ahead and make sure you turn your settings back lower, because you don't want this ruffling up while you're doing it. So you're just going to go ahead and do a straight stitch, although if you want it to be a little looser at the bottom of the leg, you want to do a zigzag stitch. That way when it stretches, when your child goes to put it on, then all of it stretches together. But for me, because I made these a little bit bigger than what her normal leggings is, I'm just going to go ahead and do a straight stitch for the ruffles. And I try to match up the new stitch that I'm doing with the stitch that's already on the ruffle, just so it's not a double stitch and it looks kind of off or awkward. So you may want to try that, or if you don't mind having the extra stitch, then you can go ahead and do that. Now you want to make sure you're taking your pins out as you go, because you don't want those running through your needle. Okay, so for this, you definitely don't want to pull the fabric as it's going through, because what'll happen, it'll be stretchy, and then when you're done, you get ready to put it together, it'll be all stretched out, or either it will roll over and it just won't look pleasing. So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to roll this up like this, and I'm not going to cut it just yet. I'm going to go ahead and do the other ruffle without even cutting the thread. Saves you time doing it this way. Now I would say always back stitch just to secure that stitch. Sorry, still getting used to this one. I was used to my other one and it broke, so I had to get a new one. Okay, and I just put this one up yesterday, so that's why I'm looking awkward, people. You have to excuse me today. Okay, so knowing that I didn't pull out the needle or the thread, so what you're going to do now is just cut that. See, and it just saves you a little bit of time going in and out of the needle. So now we have that attached, and so far this is what it looks like. Don't worry about the awkwardness or the hanging over. You can fix all of that before you actually put the whole thing together. But as you can see, it looks really good, and the ends are not frayed because I'm using a knit fabric. So we're going to do the same thing with this piece that we did with the other side. All right, everyone, so now that we have the ruffles on the second part of the leg, we are going to now put it together. This is making leggings is one of the simplest, easiest projects you can do, and you can make so many different pairs of leggings with different fabrics. I love using knit. You can make leggings with jean or like pleather or leather, any type of fabric you can work with. In every tutorial I do for leggings, every concept can be done with any type of fabric. So we're just going to lay this. This one has the right side facing up. I'm just going to go ahead and cut these extra strings off because once I sew, I don't want those there. So you may be asking, what are you going to do with the fabric that's hanging over the sides? Well, I'm just going to cut it. And I'm going to take this one. I'm going to cut that. And then we're going to put this one on top. So you have right sides facing each other. And I know it may look a little awkward to you right now, but don't worry about that. I like to even mine out by the bottom. You can do yours at the top, but I also like these pieces to be even as well, because this is what we're going to sew first. So we're just going to pin this part here, know what you're thinking. This doesn't look right, but believe me, it's right. You'll see once we sew these sides. These top sides, I'm sorry. Okay, so we're just gonna keep on pinning. Or like I said, if you're not a pinner, and normally I'm not, but I want to show you this tutorial the right way. Okay, so now this is what it should look like. This is what your fabric should look like right now. And what we're going to do is do a zigzag stitch, because now we're getting to where we're putting the seams together, and you want your child to be able to get into the fabric and not have those seams rip. So you're going to do a zigzag stitch down here. A zigzag stitch down here. Another good stitch to use on knit is like an overcast stitch. So if you have that setting, whatever is more comfortable for you, whatever you like your fabric to look like, zigzag stitch is fine for me. I'm making these particular leggings for my daughter for this tutorial. So I always say it doesn't matter where you start, but you don't want to go past this little point right here, because you're going to open these up and then you're going to sew the inside of the leg. Okay, so now that we have this done, I'm going to go ahead and cut off my excess thread here. I got a little bit more right here. Cut that off. So, if you're curious as to why we only sewed down to the tip of the butt and the front area, because we need to do this. And that is why you did that, because now you have the front and you have the back. So we're going to pin the sides together. Now you want to fold these ruffles in, make sure they're flat when you pin the sides, the insides of the leg. Okay, so I'm going to keep my stitch on the zigzag stitch, and as you can see, I have her pants pinned all the way around. So we're just going to take our pants and we're going to put our seam all the way around in a zigzag stitch. Back stitch. Okay, now what I like to do when I go over the crotch area is I like to secure that really tightly. So I go over it and then I back stitch a few times so I know that that crotch area is pretty secure. It's just what I like to do. If you have a little girl or yourself and you know that you play a lot, or you are not as kind to your clothing as you should be, you would want to go over that crotch area a few times. I don't know how many pairs of pants I purchased and the crotch area comes undone. So that's just what I like to do. If you don't like to do that, that's fine. Get down to my ruffle, I want to make sure that they're laying flat before I stitch over them. at the end. I'm going to back stitch. One more time. Okay. Okay. Gotta get used to this new sewing machine, people. Okay, so at this point, if you want to give the leggings a hem at the bottom right now, you can go ahead and do that if you like the way it looks, just like this with the fabric here not being hemmed. That's fine too. I like to hem, so I'm just going to turn this over one time just because we have that ruffle right there. I'm going to remove this part of my sewing machine. So I have that free arm right there, and then I can just stitch this easily. And I'm still keeping my zigzag stitch on just so this can stretch when she goes to put these on. This just makes it easier for me when I take the this part off. It's a lot less hassle for me doing it this way, and I'm not going to pin because this is a very little part to work with. So you want to make sure though that your back part here isn't under the foot while you're sewing, because then it'll be all sewn together. Okay, so let's get started. Just keep turning it around as you go until you get all the way around. Okay, now so that we have all of that straightened out right now, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the leftover that we had here. We're just going to cut that off, making sure not to cut the seam that we just made. So cut right above it. And do the same thing on the other side. And this is only if you did like I did and left a lot of the ruffle hanging over on the inside. Just cut that off. Okay, so now what we want to work on is the top. Now there are several things that you can do. You can simply just roll this over twice if you want to. Roll it over once, just give yourself a looser seam, or you could insert elastic, or you can make like a yoga waist. It's up to you. What I'm going to do this time, I'm not going to add any elastic. I'm just going to sew this over. So when she puts these on, all she has to do is just pull them up. So I'm going to stay with my zigzag stitch. Actually, you know what? I am going to put an elastic in. This waist looks a little big, so I'm just folding down this seam. You can iron it down, but for right now, I'm just going to sew it. So we're going to leave an opening for our elastic waistband. And I'm still using that zigzag stitch. So let's sew this all the way around. So I'm actually going to stop right here, only because I have to insert the elastic. So this is what it should be looking like now. You should have like a little opening here to put your elastic through. to the waistband. Okay everybody, so I have my elastic here. My daughter's waist is 20, so I cut my elastic at 17. So I'm just putting the safety pin through here to help me guide the elastic through the waistband casing. So what you're going to do is just take this part and just put that through that little casing that you left open. Just go ahead and just feed that through. You're just going to keep doing that until it's all the way around. If it gets stuck, just kind of pull at it a little bit and ease it on through there. And don't worry about it bunching up right now. You can fix all that once you have it all the way through. Okay, so now that we have it all the way through, still really don't worry about the bunching right now. I'm going to show you what it's going to look like once we have the elastic sewn together. So what I like to do is stitch wide enough away from the edge, like about right here, because then what I do is fold this over and sew that part down too. Now for this, we can go back to having a straight stitch. Just go ahead and go through, back stitch, forward. I like to do a few times, just so that I know it's secure. Okay, so let's cut this thread off, and then I'm going to go ahead and take the elastic, and as you can see, it's a little piece sticking out here. We're just going to fold this down like that, then we're going to sew this down, and we're going to sew that down. And yes, I still back stitch on this. So let's just move over a little bit. We can cut the thread off when we're done. There we go. So now let's just cut these little threads off. Don't want that looking all crazy. Okay, so now we're just going to stretch out this waist to get all of that elastic in this casing. So keep stretching it out as much as you can, playing around with the fabric, just moving it around until that elastic is all the way in there. So that part that you left open, you're just going to fold that down. You're going to fold that down over the elastic, and you're going to stitch that closed. So for this, you actually are going to pull it because you don't want that elastic being stiff. So you're just going to pull it as you sew. Back stitch. And just go ahead and pull on that just slightly. And back stitch again. Okay, now at this point you could go ahead and put your label on if you're going to label it, because I'm not making this for someone other than my daughter. I'm not going to put my label on today. So let me show you what it looks like. So now we have these cute little leggings with our ruffles added to them, and it's so cute and delicate. And like I said, you can add more ruffles if you want. You don't have to sew yours inside like I did. If you want to wait until you have it all stitched up and then sew the ruffles around, I would suggest at that point using a zigzag stitch just so it stretches when your child puts it on. But like I said, I made this a little wider for her already down here. I always do that when I make leggings for her. These can be made for infants. You can make leggings for adults. Leggings is one of those kind of things that is just so fun to make because you can do so many different things, add so many different designs, ruffles, lace, satin, you know, you can add some fabric to the knees. You can mess around with like different cotton fabrics and just anything. This is a versatile pattern to do and do so many different things with them. So like I said, I use a cotton knit fabric, which is really stretchy. This has a two-way stretch. Actually it has a four-way stretch, which simply means it stretches at the side and it stretches it down. So make sure when you're sewing your leg seams, you do a zigzag stitch. And just because when you do a straight stitch and you're closing a stretchy fabric up like that, what happens when you use the zigzag stitch is when you go to pull it, either the seam is going to break or it's just going to be super tight and you're not going to be able to get it on. So it's best to use like a zigzag stitch or overcast stitch, just because when you pull it, then it gives it that stretch that you need it to do, just like we did here. And as you can see, I'm pulling on my seam here and it's stretchy. If it was a straight stitch, it wouldn't do that at all. It would just stay in one place. I've been there, done that, so now I'm telling you, don't do that. So if there are any requests, please give me them, add them to the list. I have so many things to do, so many exciting things that have been requested of me, and I'm really happy and excited about that. I just made another prom dress for my niece, so if you want to see that picture, I'll put it right there. Again, I do have the pattern of how you make your own pattern for the leggings. I have that video already, so you can refer back to that. I will add that in the description. If you make anything that you see here on my channel, send me pictures, post them to my Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. I'd love to see what you've made, and just take what I made and make it your own. And as you know, I always say do what you Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I am so sorry. I want to apologize because today was actually supposed to be a tutorial video. I had a personal request from someone. They instant messaged me. Is it instant message on Facebook? Well, they messaged me directly on Facebook and asked me about making a certain type of ruffle for leggings. Well, after I made my niece's prom dress, my sewing machine died. So I was devastated for the last few days because I'm just like, oh my god, my life is over. And if you all know me, you know I just freak out with simple things like that. And I took the whole thing apart last night, couldn't figure out why it kept getting jammed. I fixed every normal problem that used to go wrong with it, and it's still not working. So I'm thinking it's just, its time was up. It wasn't a heavy duty sewing machine anyway, which is what I need. I've had it since before Autumn was born, so rest in peace to my sewing machine. So I ordered a new one, so hopefully it'll be ready for next week and I can get that request video up. I'm just sorry. So I figured we start with a recipe. I told you guys we were going to do recipes last year. I don't think we did one recipe last year, so today we are going to start that off just because my sewing machine died.